Good afternoon. I welcome you to the 9th day of this Coaches Education webinar organized by the All India Tennis Association in collaboration with the Sports Authority of India. So we're going to have Sania Mirza today. We are very excited to announce this. And I request Mr. Biswadeep to come in and welcome Sania on behalf of the All India Tennis Association.
Hi guys, I'm here.
Hi. So nice to see you. To all the panelists, we are now in the more or less the final leg of our coaches education webinar that we've been doing along with the Sports Authority of India. The AITA and the Sports Authority of India have taken up this initiative. It's been a great success, as all of you have seen. And today we have a very special day and a very special guest, as all of you know. You've been knowing it for a while. She's the perfect amalgamation of perseverance, of grit, determination on the one hand, and style, class, and international recognition on the other. Coming out of a long break that she had, she has come back with a bang, and she's done a fantastic job for us by making India so proud, by being, making it for the first time that we entered the World Group qualifying in Fed Cup. Congratulations, Sania, for this brilliant performance. And I would also like to sort of, she's obviously been one of the most famous, decorated, inspirational sports persons of this country, and also one of the favorite daughters of India. So we are really proud to have you here, Sania, and we look forward to a very, very interesting session between you and Suresh, and also Nursing would probably join in with some questions in Hindi. And on the screen, you can also see on the panel Mrs. Lalita Sharma. She is the Regional Director of Sports Authority of India in Sonipat. She's, along with all of us, she's also a big fan. So thank you so much. So I'm handing it back to Suresh, and let's look forward to another fantastic session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Biswadeep. And Sania, welcome to the session. On behalf of all the coaches, I extend a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. How is Izan, Sania?
Izan's fine. Izan is a handful now. He's 18 months, so he's all over the place. He doesn't sit even for 1 second. So I don't have to worry about my fitness. That's for sure.
So you have 4 more months to go for the troublesome 2 to start.
6, yeah. I mean, he's 1.5 now, so 6 more months.
Oh, okay. So you're going to have hands full. How are you going to manage this, plus being a professional tennis player?
Just the way I managed everything else, I guess. I think it's just something that I'm lucky enough to have enough help around me as well. I think that is a huge plus for me. And, my mom and my sister have played a huge part in trying to obviously give me as much help as possible. Even when traveling, I have, a nurse who travels with me, and I have my mom who travels, because, he's at a stage where he kind of needs a lot of people around him, and also he needs someone to watch him all the time. So I think that, but I do think that, for me, a lot of people questioned it even when I was trying to make that comeback, how did you find time to lose the weight, at the beginning. There's so much that happens with your body after you give birth and stuff like that. And there are so many changes that happen. You sort of just have to adapt, I think, and you just have to sort of find a way. You have to take out 2 hours of your day somewhere, in those 24 hours and sneak them in and try to find that balance, because it's also good for your own sanity as well to just find time for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with that. So you've been a world champion, so it shouldn't be a problem for you balancing things. You must have balanced so many other things, actually. So I
mean, I don't know. I think that balancing comes a lot more naturally a lot of the times to women, because I think they are used to balancing a lot of things. They take care of homes, they go to work, they have kids, and especially initially, I think kids and stuff are a lot more dependent on the mothers than they are on the fathers, especially in the initial stages.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I think that women sort of have that knack of trying to, being able to balance it probably comes a lot more naturally to them. Perhaps, I don't know how many men are going to agree, but I think a lot of women will agree.
No, I told you, I don't know, you have certain skills which is, I don't know, very
Yeah,
difficult to duplicate
exactly.
by
I
men.
mean, I think there's certain skills that are different in men and women, and I
Yeah.
think multitasking is something that comes maybe a little bit more naturally to women than it does to men.
Totally. We all know that weakness we have. Don't point it out. Now you're talking about your mom. We would like to hear because I know she, when you were traveling as a kid, under 12, under 14s in the Indian circuit, I've seen your mom travel with you, and she was like, she was a great person. The way she talks to you after matches, before matches, and things like that. I'm sure she played a great role in your career. Could you highlight a little bit about her role?
Yeah, I think that tennis. I can speak for myself because I played tennis. I think tennis is such an individual sport from the outside, but on the inside, it takes so much of a team effort to get it together. I think that without your family, without all the sacrifices of your family, of your coaches, of your trainers, of your physios, of your dietitians. I mean, literally everybody plays a team effort in you reaching and being the best tennis player that you can be. And my mom was actually the first person who actually put me in tennis when I was 6 years old. She was the one who gave me that initial push. So, even today, so many years later, she's still as passionate as she was when I was like 12 years old and going and,
I can imagine that.
Yeah, she's amazing. And I think that I get that go-getter sort of gritty-ness from her, because I think she's someone that has always been very determined, and I think that I get that part of my personality comes a lot from her. And she's both of my parents, but I think initially it was mom who traveled more, but also because I was younger, I think I needed her a little bit more as well. So she used to travel a lot with me. We used to travel in trains for 2.5 days to reach to tournaments, whether it was to Delhi or to Guwahati or like all kinds of places to go and play under 12s, under 14s.
Yeah. So moms play a huge role in women's tennis all over the world, isn't it?
I think that moms play a huge role in every sport. I think that I think that parents are someone that they need to have that determination that they are going to give you that initial push. After that, it does depend on the individual themselves. But I think that initial push or the spotting of the talent is done all by the parents initially, and then in tandem with the coaches is when the parents and the coaches together can sort of mold a tennis player or whatever. I don't know about other sports, but I'm pretty sure it's close to that, because I know so many great athletes, and they've always said that their parents have played a humongous part in them being where they are.
Yeah, totally. Now, talking about that, is it an advantage to have, to be born in a family which is already involved in sport, is exposed to sport to a high level?
I think that the mindset is slightly different, that when you have a family that loves sport, I don't know if it's exposed to sport, but I think it's very important to love sport to become good at it. And I think that if you don't love what you're doing, it's going to be very difficult to be the best that you can be, because to find that motivation day in and day out, to every day wake up in the morning and do the same thing. Tennis is really, or for athletes, our lives are really monotonous. I mean, we have to do the same routines every day. We wake up every morning, we eat the same kind of food, a little bit different here and there, but there's not a lot of change that happens. There we do the same warm up, the same practice, the same forehand, the same backhand. So I mean, it's a really monotonous. So if you don't love what you're doing, it's going to be very difficult to wake up every morning and do the same thing for like 25, 30 years. So I think that it's very important to understand that coming from a sport loving family, I think gives me an advantage, because they sort of understood. And sport was always a big part of our family, and it didn't really mean that we needed to be a number one in the world. That's not what sport meant. Sport meant that we needed to learn from the victories and the defeats, and from what sport taught us, even at the very basic level of when we were playing, whether it was for school, whether we were playing for the state, whether we were playing under 10, under 12. I think it was always, we always took pride in playing sport, and we always took pride in the fact that, we love sport. And I think that sport taught us so much that maybe even education sometimes didn't teach us.
Yeah, totally, Sanya. Well said. And I'm going to take a clipping of this and put it on YouTube and share it all over the place.
Please, I do think this side of the world definitely needs this clipping to be played a lot, because I think, especially
totally.
the amount of girls that are their talents are sacrificed in because they need to study or they need to learn other things that a girl needs to do. I think needs to be understood that sport can teach you so much, and it can teach you so many life skills. I think people will be really surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. So especially what you spoke about, the outlook about the sport and the winning and the losing, the passion for playing, to compete. It's so important to mold a champion, If people are too focused on winning, I'm sure you would have had too much difficulty at every crucial juncture in every match.
Yeah, I think, so it's a funny story. So when I was younger, I didn't really, even when I was like very, very small, like I was 9, 10 years old, I always played above my age group. So when I was 12, I was playing an under 16s, and when I was 13, I was playing in under 18. So I was always playing with older kids. And whenever people used to lose, I mean, obviously, a lot of kids used to cry when they used to lose. And I, for one, I never used to feel like crying when I lost a match. I didn't think that I needed to cry. I would be sad, but I would not feel like crying. So once a parent came to my parents and said that, and I was there, and they came and said that, why doesn't she ever cry when she loses? Does she not feel bad that she's losing? And my parents, my dad and my mom looked at that other parent, and they just said that because for us, tennis is a part of my life, and it's a part of our lives, but it's not our complete life. And she knows that there'll be another day, and there'll be another day to fight. So this is what was instilled in me since a very young age, that we need to know and understand that no matter how many downs you have, if you work hard and you put in the hard yards, the next day you can come out and win. And that's what sport really teaches you. It teaches you to never give up. So I think that I didn't cry, not because I didn't feel bad. I didn't cry only because I knew that if I try harder and I play better and I have faith in my own talent, the next day, the next week, I can come back and I can win that same match.
Yeah, totally agree, Sanya. So if you play even a Grand Slam, at the end of the tournament, only one winner remains, and everybody else
I mean,
is
in tennis, it's not like a lot of sports. In tennis, there is only one winner. Rest, everybody is a loser at some point in the week. So, I mean, I think that, tennis being a knockout game, it's something that is so difficult for even my husband when we got married, for him to understand. That he was like, he just didn't understand the concept of that. If you lose in the first round, that's it. Like, you're done for the week. He didn't understand that. Because for them, everything was like, no matter how bad or good they are playing, they have a set schedule, and they have to play that schedule no matter what happens. So I think that that's why I always tell everybody is a loser in tennis except one person a week. But the good part is you have 35 weeks to prove yourself. So you can come back next week and be the winner as well. So
yeah. And if you win 2 or 3 tournaments in a year, big ones, that's good enough. Even if you lose,
I mean, there are people that win one tournament a year and it's a successful year,
Yeah,
So I think that's because in tennis, or even in badminton for that matter, you have to win 5 or 6 matches in a row to sort of win the tournament, In a lot of other sports, you don't have to do that. You can win 1 match or 2 matches, and you can get through a tournament, but in tennis, you have to completely win the entire week. You need to be playing well, and you need to even win when you're not playing well to be able to win that tournament.
Yeah. And all this comes from the parenting, from the start, how the parents are with the
I
kids.
definitely think so. I think that, not putting enough pressure, like I think that it's very important not to completely put your entire hopes and pressure on the child, because I think it really affects them. And I think it affects the children more than you can imagine, that they feel that they are letting their parents down, when you put that much pressure on them. It's there's a very thin and fine line between being encouraging and putting pressure. And I think that balance needs to be found by the parents themselves, because the child is too small at that point, and this needs to start at a very, very young age.
Yeah. And talking about this, you're also talking about girls in general, and what we see, there's a phenomenon all over the world. When I attend the World Coaches Workshop, they're also talking about this, that girls in general they compete till they are 16, 15, 16, 17, and then they quit. All of a sudden, they just quit. Most of the girls who have played with me, they get into college, until school they are playing, continuing to play. Once they get into college, they just quit. Do you have you ever thought about this, or do you know about this phenomena, or do you know
Yeah,
why?
I think that I think that is a much deeper problem, and I think it's not as on the surface as like, oh, they quit when they're 15, 16. I think that the deeper issue is that sport in general in this side of the world doesn't come as naturally to parents to say, okay, I have a daughter, I want her to become a professional athlete. I don't think that's the first thing that a parent thinks when they have a daughter. I think the other things that come to their mind is we make her a doctor, we can make her a, whatever, a lawyer, or she can be a housewife or a homemaker or whatever. But I think things have changed over the last 25-30 years since I started playing, but we still have some ways to go, because I think that girls, there are certain norms that have been outlined for the girls, that this is what they should do and this is what they shouldn't do.
Yeah.
And sport is definitely not one of the things that they should do in general, because I think that I after having achieved everything, and after being who I am and everything, still I had questions of when I was going to have a child, because as if until I had a child, my life was not complete.
Yeah.
So I think those are certain very deeper issues that happen, that are there culturally embedded in us, that I think that it's going to take a few generations to get rid of those cultural issues. But I think that one of the reasons is because by 15, 16 they think, acha, abhi badi ho gayi hai, now the girl has become big, she'll become dark, who's going to marry her?
Yes.
There are other issues that come into the head, and it's probably not the parents all the time. A lot of the time it's the uncles and aunties and the padosis who are sitting. And I mean, I promise you, I've had hundreds and thousands of those in my life, that I'm going to become dark and nobody would marry. Why are you letting her going out and playing? And at that time, there were not many girls who used to play, and they were like, she's going out and playing with all these boys in shorts. And so those are the things that I think are a cultural issue. And I think that by 15, 16, the parents are like, okay, maybe she should just go and study and take a sort of different route.
Okay. Yeah, what you said is totally right about the social pressures on the girls in trying to behave like a girl, to fit into that thing. And I'm sure your mom was there, and the most difficult thing for her was to deal with this.
I don't know if it was that difficult. I think that it was what we were doing was against the norm of what was going on, especially at that time when I started playing tennis. I'm 33 today, so I started playing tennis when I was 6. It was a very, very long time ago. And at that time, I mean, a girl picking up a tennis racket and dreaming to play Wimbledon one day was unheard of. Actually, it was laughed at. So I think that my parents, I was very lucky to be born to parents who did not understand or did not care about what what other people say. There's the saying of "Log kya kahenge" has killed more dreams than anybody else, right? So I think that is something that my parents really didn't care about. I think they just cared about the fact that we had a dream and we were trying to achieve it, and no matter whether we achieved it or not, where we would get, we were taking pride in every step that we were making. So I think my parents came from a pretty broad-minded, generation, so to say.
Yeah, just not so common actually.
Yeah, it wasn't that common at that point. It's true.
Yeah. But things are getting better as I see that, more and more girls are taking up sport and the parents are becoming more open-minded. Like you said, in a couple of generations, things are going to change, hopefully.
Yeah, I think that I take huge pride in the fact that outside of maybe a few cricketers, our biggest athletes of the country are women sports people, right? I mean, whether it's, I think that whether you switch the TV on or you see on billboards or in magazines, you see a lot of women, you see a few cricketers, but outside of that, the biggest superstars of the sport world today are women athletes. And that is a huge, huge step. Because I know that how difficult it is to be a woman and to try and pursue a sport and try to become a champion at it. And I think that this is a signal that things have changed for the better. But I do think that it still needs to go a few ways, before we reach that point where when a girl picks up a boxing glove or a tennis racket or a badminton racket or says, I want to become a wrestler, it's not something that is out of the ordinary. It should become a very natural progression.
Yeah.
So Suresh, I'm going to interject at this point. This is exactly the point where I think I should mention to all the people who are attending, mention it again. I've already said it once. All of you need to be extremely proud of the fact that Sania has been nominated by the International Tennis Federation for the Fed Cup Heart Award. And this is an amazing award. This is an award which actually recognizes the huge, the tremendous effort, the tremendous commitment that any sports person or a tennis player has towards the Fed Cup cause. And she's the first person ever from India to have been nominated for that. The voting for this thing is going on, and we thought this would be an excellent opportunity to once again reach out to all the people who are attending and to tell them to spread this word far and wide, so that the voting, which continues for the next few days, all of you can join in, and all your friends and relatives can join in and vote, and as many as possible should vote, so that our own superstar comes out with a thumping victory. And we wish you all the best. And I would be very happy if Sania can also just mention this this award and what it means to her. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, for me, Fed Cup was. I represented my country the first time at a team event when I was about 12 years old, which was for the under 14 Fed Cup. And then after that, in 2003, so we're talking about 17 years ago, was the first time that I played the Fed Cup, the Fed Cup for the women. And it's been 17 long years of me, and it's been an absolute pleasure and pride. And every time that I've been able to represent India at the Fed Cup and we've come a long way. Like you said, this is the first time that we were able to qualify for the World Group, and I was so happy that after all these years, I was able to be a part of that as well, in making history. And I think that's a huge step for women's tennis, because I don't think people are even imagined that women's tennis would be in this position where it is today, because we were literally struggling, to find players till a few years ago. So I think that being nominated for this award means a lot for me, because Fed Cup means a lot for me, and playing for the country means so much for me. So I would obviously like to appeal to everyone to go and vote. Hopefully we can win. The voting is open till the 8th. I think we're on the 6th today. So it's open till day after tomorrow. So hopefully, we can bring it home, really, because I think that it's a huge, not just for me, but I think also for India to have this award would be pretty amazing, because we've never ever been nominated for any such award.
So go for it, guys. All the best, Sania, and I'm sure we'll win this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
With the 1.2 billion people, it shouldn't be a trouble winning this.
Well, let's hope so. I'm going to take your word for it.
Yeah. Okay, Sania, we have some specific questions for you. The topic for the day is mental training by Coach Hemant Bendre later today. So when you were competing in the futures, you were still a junior, and you won.
Yeah, I was very young.
Yeah,
I was 13. Yeah.
No. I'm talking about the futures. You were.
Yeah, I was 13 when I started playing.
Oh, you started. You went into the futures that early?
Yeah, I was 13.
But now it is not allowed. Only
yeah, but you were allowed to play 5 tournaments. Like, you had very limited tournaments you could play. So I was. I'm 33. This was 20 years ago. It was a long time ago.
Okay. And so after you won, I think a few titles in the futures, you were given a wild card into the WTA tournament. And,
yeah, 2003.
Yeah. And then you won it in 2004.
In 2005, I won it.
2005. And then after you won it, you just jumped the level. Normally you go through the futures, then you play the 50K, the 100K, and then you're going up. You jumped into the WTA tour events, and then you just stayed there.
Yeah, actually what happened was that at the end of 2004, I was around 150, I think, if I can remember correctly. I was, vaguely around there. And at that point, I think they still have it. There used to be a wildcard playoff tournament that they have at the end of the year to get into the Australian Open. And, the top couple of players from every country of Asia would have the opportunity to compete at that tournament. And if you won that tournament, you would get into Australian Open as a main draw wildcard. I remember playing. I was playing the tournament in Uzbekistan, and I had competed in that the year before as well. I had lost in the quarterfinal, I think, and then in 2004 I was about 150. So I was kind of on the verge of making that breakthrough of being, top 100. But I think this wildcard tournament definitely gave me that very big nudge that was going to happen. So when I did play that wildcard tournament, I happened to lose to Lena in the final. But at that point, to my luck, Lena actually got in by the end of the year. She already made it to top 100, so she got in to Australian Open by herself with her ranking. So she didn't need the wild card, and I got the wild card because I lost to her in the final. So when I went to compete at the Australian Open, I happened to win a couple of rounds the first time that I played the Australian Open. So I think that's where that huge jump came from. From straight away from about 150, 140 in the world, I went straight to like about 70 or 60 within a period of about 2 months. So with that one tournament, and then once you compete at that level, and then I played Serena for the first time in my life. And, for me at that point, just to see Serena was like, one of the most amazing things that could happen. And then to compete against her, and it gives you a different kind of confidence mentally. It gives you a different kind of jump, a different kind of pull. You just feel that you can compete against the best, and you can be the one of the best. So when I competed against her, I was able to play a decent match. I came off. I was very proud of myself to play the third round of Australian Open at that point. And straight after Australian Open was at that point, I think it used to be, we played Fed Cup again, which we usually play after Australian Open, and then we went to play the WTA, which was happening in Hyderabad at that point. I was, I think, the first one out of the main draw, and luckily, obviously, it was my hometown. So at that point, I got the wild card, and I ended up winning the tournament. But I remember going into the tournament, I didn't feel that I was, one of the last ones to get in. I felt that I belonged there, and I think that is a huge part that comes into play when you have to believe that you belong. That you belong in the best. You have to believe that, because if you don't believe that, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to ever be able to compete against the best and be the best.
We have Supan Basra. He's asking you if you have some tips for the coaches to work with adolescent girls, because there are some complications when you're working with adolescent girls, and you have worked with coaches during that age. Would you have any tips for the coaches?
I think in general, when you work with girls, there are little complications, because girls are a little bit more moodier than boys are, I think. So my dad always tells me that to work with a woman tennis player is a lot more trickier. It's a lot more mental, because I do think that there are a lot of issues that girls go through, especially when they are adolescent. I mean, when they are like 13, 14, 15, they're just discovering who they are. There's so much happening with internally in your body and externally in your body. There are so many changes that are happening. You are trying to play tennis, and you're trying to be the best tennis player that you can be. Then you come back home and you go to a birthday party, and you see your friends who are completely dressed up, who are much fairer than you, who are who are sitting at home, who have time, all the time in the world, to look after themselves, and they just study. But you're playing tennis, you're studying, your priorities are very different. So there are a lot of mental things that you struggle with. So I think my only advice to coaches is to be a little bit more sensitive towards the adolescent girls, because I do think that also there are so many hormonal changes happening as well. You have to understand, for women, hormonal changes are something that happens throughout their life. And, I can tell you that after I've given birth, I can tell you the kind of ups and downs that you emotionally go through after you give birth. Hormonally as well. So I think that is something that you need to be taken into account, and be a little bit more sensitive towards sort of their needs and the way that they are, because I think that a lot of the times it's just they're trying to discover who they are as well. And I think that while trying to be the best tennis player they can be, it's a pretty tough job to do.
Okay, so these hormonal changes also affects you when you actually play?
100%.
Okay.
100% they affect you. I think there are some women on this panel, they'll be able to tell you as well, but 100% they affect you. They affect you not just physically, but they also affect you emotionally. Sometimes you burst out crying and you actually don't know why you're crying. And sometimes it's just a hormonal fluctuation that happens. And, I was lucky enough, for example, as recent as after I had Isha, and I was lucky enough to I didn't have postpartum depression, which is a term that I didn't even know before I got pregnant.
Okay.
Believe me.
Okay.
So I don't blame you if you don't know the term as a man. As a woman, I didn't know the term until I actually got pregnant. And I was lucky because I didn't have that. But my best friend's wife had postpartum depression. It took her a year and a half to come out of that postpartum depression, because right after you have a baby, your hormone levels are so fluctuated that she didn't want to touch her baby, for example. There are things like that happen to you. So it's not just something that is a outwardly and physical change that happens. It's also an emotional change, and I think a lot happens when you're an adolescent as well, because also there's so much more going on. I mean, imagine like when you're 15, 16 years old, the only thing you can think about is probably, and your other friends are talking about which boy you have a crush on, or which coffee shop you're going to bunk your last period of school and go to. But over here, you're trying to win a tennis match. When I was 16, I was playing Fed Cup already. And when I was 16, I was already, competing in the women's. I was already playing, like I said, I started when I was 13, 14 years old. So at 16, I was already playing 25,000s, 50,000s. So it's a very different mindset that goes into a tennis player. And when you're an adolescent, I think it takes a little bit of more sensitivity towards them.
Okay. So would you say the best way to deal with this is to understand that there is no logic in it? It is something that is happening within you, and not react or do anything and know that it's going to pass off?
I think that you need to understand. I think that a relationship of a coach and a player has to be like friends. First of all, I don't think that it needs to be necessarily. I mean, the respect needs to be there between each other, but I don't necessarily think it needs to be like, oh my God, I'm your teacher and you have to listen to everything that I'm saying, and if you don't listen, you're going to be punished. I think that's a very old school way. That's not how I look at coaching. I look at coaching as you need to be able to be spending, because you spend the most time with your coach more than you do with your own family. You're going to spend so much time with your coach. We are on the court for 7-8 hours a day, and we are spending so much time with you. I should be able to confide in you. I should be able to be your friend, and I think the coach needs to be my friend as well. And I think that really does help. And I think that once that relationship and that friendship has been formed, I think it'll be anyway easier to understand what a particular person is going through emotionally or physically, because I'll be able to tell you that today I don't feel like practicing for 4 hours. I feel like playing only for 2 hours because emotionally I'm feeling drained, for example. So, but that trust and that friendship will come only if if you build that sort of friendship or relationship with each other.
Yeah. Totally, because one of the main things for a player to make it big is to step outside your comfort zone on a regular basis. And when the kids are not ready to do that, the coach has to be there to push them. And if unless they understand the student really well, and if they push in the wrong time, like you said, it is not going to,
it's going to actually deter, and it's actually going to be determined to what they are trying to do. Because I think that if you're trying to push someone to do something and to work hard or do something on the court, and they are just not willing to listen because they are probably going through some other turmoil in their lives, which you have no idea what's going on. So I think that it's very important to have that trust relationship between each other. And for me, I think that like when my dad has been someone who's been around my life as a coach all my life, and I think that's actually helped our relationship as a father and daughter, for him to be my coach. And I know it sounds funny because a lot of people say it ruins their relationships as a father and daughter, but mine, it has helped. It's helped us be friends, and me and my dad are so close because of the very fact that of the amount of hours we spend together on the court. But also he knows what to tell me when, and he knows when to step back, because that's just because he understands me to that level.
Okay. We have just a couple of last questions from my side. Sukhwant wants to know, what is your routine between points? The 20-second routine, do you change it in crucial times, and you have a different routine at different times, or?
No, I don't actually have, I'm not so set with my routine. I mean, I usually don't take so much time between points, which is not great. I recommend people should take time. I take about 12 to 15 seconds unless it's a really long point. I like to play with we play with 6 balls in play usually. So I do have some of my favorite balls in those 6 balls. So that's part of my routine, is to select one of the balls that I do like to serve. I try to take the newer ball, so that is one of the parts of my routine. I don't really have any of the other routines of not stepping on the lines or any of those things which a lot of other tennis players do. I don't really have that, but I do. I know that before an important point, I try to take my time and try to just understand the situation I'm in. So that is just part of my routine. But I don't really have something set that, okay, this is what I do exactly. I don't have that level of OCD a little bit. So
You call it OCD. Okay, because we are teaching people to go through routine. You call it an OCD. Now I have to think about it now.
no, I think that I honestly don't believe that. I think that you should teach them to take their time. I think that because that's something that I don't do, and I know it's my weakness, and I try to work on it when I play. But I think that it's important to teach them to maybe analyze a point just before they play it, to sort of understand, okay, it's a 30 all, it's a big point at 5 all, this is what I should do. I should try to get my first serve in. I think that's what taking time. But I think that whatever works for each person is different. I don't think that you can say, okay, if this routine works for this person, it will necessarily work for the other person. Like a Maria Sharapova, you know exactly what she's going to do between 2 points. For example, you know she's going to go, she's going to turn her back towards you. She's going to go towards the linesman. She's going to look at her racket string. She's going to turn back. So that is a routine that works for her. That necessarily doesn't work for me. So I think that's just the way it is. I think what works for one person, but I definitely do recommend you should tell the kids to take their time, because that is something that will help them reset after they have a long point, after they have a bad point or a good point. It will help them reset, because as we know in tennis, every point is a new point. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely. So the last question from my side, one sport or the other, and you will want to make him an athlete. Do you have a plan to develop these athletic skills in the next 10 years or so?
You will laugh, but actually I don't have any plans to make him an athlete, and neither does my husband. Both of us constantly say, oh my God, like the amount of hard work that we have put in and our parents have put in. I always tell my parents, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do what you guys did for him. I honestly, we joke about this, but he's 1.5, and he's got some incredible hand-eye coordination. And
Okay.
at 1.5, it's very, very impressive. Like if you give him a bat in the hand, and you just roll the balls, he makes contact with every ball. I mean, I don't know how he does it. I just showed him once and he just started doing it. Obviously, it must be the genes a little bit, I guess, that he gets from the parents. But I want him to do whatever he wants. I think there's a lot of, there'll be a lot of pressure on him, and I really don't want him to ever go through that feeling of feeling that pressure, because both his parents have been able to achieve a few things in their life, and it's going to be difficult for him to always be compared to them. So I'll be happy if he picks up a third sport. I'll be very honest. I don't mind him picking up golf, or, he loves the water. He can be a swimmer or something. Yeah. But he does have good hand-eye coordination, and I honestly think that naturally he is a bowler, to be very honest with you. More than hitting the ball with a racket or with a bat, he loves to throw the ball. He just sees the ball and he wants to throw it or he wants to kick it. And that's what comes most naturally to him. He just wants to throw everything. He goes off the balcony and throws off everything that we have. Like, he just wants to throw things. And he's like, so I think that naturally he's more of a bowler. But
don't decide yet. It could be serving also.
No, I'm not deciding. I'm saying it's a third sport. I'm saying golf. I'm going for golf.
Okay, thanks a lot, Sania. I would like you to answer some questions in Hindi. I will.
I can try.
Yeah. Nothing. Over to you.
He's on mute. You're on mute.
Yeah.
Hi, Sania.
Hi, how are you?
कैसे हैं आप?
मैं ठीक हूँ, thank you.
आज बहुत सारी बातें सुरेश से आपने करी और उसमें जो मेरे भी क्वेश्चन बहुत सारे थे, वो काफी कवर हो गए हैं. और साथ ही मैं ये कहूँगा कि आपको और आपके पेरेंट्स को मैं मुबारकबाद दूंगा कि जो आज भारत के लिए सानिया मिर्जा मिली है हमारे को, वो पेरेंट्स की बहुत बहुत शुक्रगुजार हैं हम लोग. और सारे कोचों की तरफ से इंडिया के मैं आपको और आपके पेरेंट्स को बधाई देता हूँ कि ऐसी सानिया और भी मिले हमारे को.
थैंक यू.
आपने कहा कि अभी आपकी टेनिस शुरू हुई थी छोटी एज में, जैसे मैंने भी देखा आपको अंडर 12 अंडर 14 जब आप दिल्ली आया करती थी खेलने के लिए टूर्नामेंट्स, हम लोग अक्सर देखा करते थे. और आपकी जो एक कला थी कि मेरे को फोकस रहना है हमेशा, एंड दैट एज स्पेशली, और आपने कभी पीछे मुड़ के नहीं देखा. एक फोकस जो था आपका वो हमेशा के लिए, वो जो आज भी दिखता है जब आप मैच खेल रही होती हैं, उसको आप कैसे मेंटेन करती हैं?
मेरे ख्याल से आई थिंक कि आपको थोड़ी सी मेंटल ट्रेनिंग की भी जरूरत पड़ती है. मैंने एक दो साइकोलॉजिस्ट से भी बात की थी, लेकिन एज ए यंग गर्ल आई थिंक माय पेरेंट्स जो थे उन्होंने मुझे उस मेंटल ट्रेनिंग पे वो किया था कि आप जब भी कोर्ट पे उतरेंगे, जब भी आप मैदान पे उतरेंगे, तो आपको अपना 100% देना है, चाहे आप हारो या जीतो. उसके बाद आपको जो करना है आप करो, आप हंसो, आप बाहर जाओ, आप दोस्तों के साथ जाओ, लेकिन जब आप ट्रेनिंग कर रहे हैं या जब आप कोर्ट पे हैं, उस टाइम पे आपको अपना 100% देना है. एंड दैट इज अ मेंटालिटी दैट आई फॉलोड ऑलवेज. मेरा हमेशा से यही था, चाहे मैं 12 साल की भी थी. आपने मुझे देखा है जब मैं बचपन से, मैं जब दिल्ली आती थी खेलने, तो मेरे लिए जीतना इम्पोर्टेंट था, लेकिन मेरे लिए कंपटीशन ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट था. मेरे लिए कम्पिटिटिवनेस और खेलना और अपना 100% देना ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट था. एंड आई थिंक दैट इज ऑनेस्टली अ वेरी जो सीक्रेट कहते हैं टू सक्सेस, इट्स अ सीक्रेट टू सक्सेस, दैट आपको कंपटीशन एंजॉय करना चाहिए, आपको वो फीलिंग एंजॉय करनी चाहिए, आपको फीलिंग में यू शुड बी अब्सॉर्ब बाय द फीलिंग जब आप वो खेल रहे हैं. एंड आई थिंक that's the kind of mentality that I follow. even आज जब मैं कोर्ट पे उतरती हूँ, I don't think about anything. For me, मैं हमेशा कहती हूँ if I'm upset, if I'm happy, whatever it is, अगर मैं टेनिस कोर्ट पे जाती हूँ मैं सब भूल जाती हूँ. मैं सिर्फ, मुझे टेनिस बॉल दिखाई देता है और वो नेट दिखाई देता है और सामने का प्लेयर दिखाई देता है. And that is something that I think came to me through my parents.
सही कहा आपने, क्योंकि जब आप खेला करती थी जूनियर टूर्नामेंट्स में, खासकर योर फादर इमरान भाई या आपकी मदर बैठ के बड़ी क्लोजली मैच देखती थी, और उसके बाद शायद आपसे डिस्कस भी करती होंगी इस बारे में कि आज तुमने कैसे खेला, कैसा नहीं खेला. क्योंकि उस टाइम कोचों का इतना नहीं था कि आपके संग ट्रेवलिंग करे, पेरेंट्स ही ट्रेवल करते थे उस टाइम पर. लेकिन आज तो कोच और सपोर्टिंग स्टाफ भी, आपका हर प्रकार का फिजियो आप लेके चलते हैं. तो उस टाइम पर आपको जब समझाते थे पेरेंट्स आपके, वो किस बारे में ज्यादा बात करते थे?
बस यही कहते थे कि क्या सही किया था या क्या गलत किया था. उस टाइम पे मैं हमेशा से मेरा गेम बहुत अग्रेसिव था. फॉर एग्जांपल, तो उस टाइम पे मैं कई ऐसे मैचेस हार जाती थी. जब मैं 10 या 11 साल की थी, मैं कई ऐसे मैचेस हार जाती थी क्योंकि आई यूज्ड टू हिट द बॉल वेरी हार्ड. लेकिन माय पेरेंट्स न्यू दैट इन द लॉन्ग रन दैट इज समथिंग जो मुझे मैचेस जिताएगा और मुझे चैंपियन बनाएगा. हम लोग प्लेयर से खेलते थे जो बॉल को लॉब करते थे या बिल्कुल ही स्लो मार के वो जीत जाते थे टूर्नामेंट्स उस टाइम पे. लेकिन वी न्यू एंड माय पेरेंट्स एट दैट पॉइंट न्यू कि that was not the way to go. And even if I made more mistakes than the other people and I lost some matches, वो केयर नहीं करते थे. वो मुझे यही कहते थे कि अग्रेसिव रहना है, तुम्हें ये करना है, तुम्हें यू हैव टू मूव योर फीट. मतलब वी यूज्ड टू डिस्कस मोर बेसिक्स. हम ये नहीं करते थे कि अगर तुम मैच हार गई तो तुमने वो बॉल अंदर क्यों नहीं रखा. कभी ऐसी बात नहीं होती थी, क्योंकि वी ऑलवेज थॉट ऑफ द लॉन्ग रन. वी वर नॉट थिंकिंग कि इस मैच में, अगर आप 12 साल के मैच में अंडर 12 का मैच हार गए तो आपका क्या होगा. हम ये सोचते थे कि इस मैच से आप सीख के आप जब 18 साल के होंगे तो वो कैसे होगा. when you're going to be 18, are you, is this the mentality that's going to help you win a match or win a big match or play the grand slams. So I think कि इसी वजह से I continue to stay aggressive all my life in my tennis. मैं हमेशा से aggressive खेलती थी और that was my biggest strength in the end.
अभी जैसे आपने कहा था कि 13 साल की उम्र में ITF का टूर्नामेंट खेलना शुरू कर दिया था आपने. मुझे याद है आपके वो मैच मैंने भी देखे, शुरू किए आपके मैच, और हमें भी याद है कि आप कैसे खेली थी और किस प्रकार से खेल रही थी. लेकिन मैं चाहूंगा कि आप ये चीज जरूर शेयर करें आज कि जब आपने ये शुरू किया था अंडर 14 के जब टूर्नामेंट्स में, ITF के टूर्नामेंट में पार्ट गए और उसमें फिर सीधा विमेंस के टूर्नामेंट में खेलने लगी, तो उस दौरान आपने जो ट्रेनिंग करी है वो आपके दिमाग में क्या था कि विमेन की टेनिस खेलने के लिए या जूनियर टूर्नामेंट जीत रही है?
नहीं, हमेशा से यही होता था कि आगे जाके what is going to make me the best player that I can be. ऐसे नहीं होता था कि इस मैच में या इस वीक में हमें ये करना है, इस वीक में हम इससे खेल रहे हैं. I mean, of course, दुख होता था अगर आप मैच हारते थे, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं था कि आपकी जिंदगी बंद नहीं हो जाती थी मेरी. इसीलिए शायद मैं वो जो कह रही थी शुरू में कि मैं रोती नहीं थी, it was because of that, because I always understood there's a bigger picture in mind. The bigger picture was always to play Grand Slams. The bigger picture was always to win Grand Slams. The bigger picture was not to win an under 14 tournament or an under 18 tournament. वो bigger picture नहीं होता था. So we used to work towards becoming better over time to get to be the best player that we can be when we were 17, 18 years old.
सही कहा आपने कि ये क्वेश्चन मैंने इसलिए किया था कि क्योंकि आज की तारीख में बहुत सारे पेरेंट्स ऐसे हैं जो अंडर 14 में शुरू करते हैं और उनको सोचते हैं कि जल्द से जल्द विमेन टूर्नामेंट खिलाएं, लेकिन ग्रोथ आपको याद होगा कि आपकी
नहीं,
ग्रोथ अच्छी थी।
ग्रेजुअल होती है ग्रोथ, जो होती है ग्रेजुअल होती है। आपको ग्रेजुअली हर चीज स्टार्ट करना पड़ता है। आप जब 13-14 के होते हैं, मतलब सबका टैलेंट अलग होता है, सबका एवरीबडी हैज डिफरेंट sort of क्या उसको कहते हैं, I mean everybody has different side of sort of mindset, और सबके set of skills भी अलग होते हैं, सबके skills एक तरह नहीं होते। तो अगर if it worked for me that at 18 I made my breakthrough into the women's and I became 31 in the world, it's not necessary कि किसी और के लिए भी वो होगा। ऐसे हो सकता है किसी और के लिए वो 16 में कर जाए, या हो सकता है वो कोई और 24 में कर जाए। तो it's a different set of skills and a different set of talent and different set of hard work for everybody. तो you just have to find कि आपका वो next step आप कब ले सकते हैं। For example, you know, अब आज मुझे लोग हमेशा पूछते हैं कि आजकल लड़कियां जो इंडिया से खेलती हैं, for example, they haven't made that next jump yet. For example, I made it when I was 18, and there are girls, they have come close. Like Ankita Raina is someone who's been very close. She's been 130, 120. She's come very, very close, but she hasn't been able to crack that top 100. So that is something कि it could be different for her. Maybe she'll crack it next year. Maybe she'll crack it in the next 6 months. वो सबके लिए अलग-अलग parameters होते हैं। ये जरूरी नहीं होता कि it has to be the same. अगर मेरे लिए ये work कर गया तो आपके लिए भी वो work करेगा। You have to find what's best for you.
ये क्वेश्चन के बाद मैं उसी से तो आगे थोड़ा बढ़ता हुआ कि आपने याद होगा कि जब 2001, 2, 3, 4 में जो टेनिस खेली थी आपने, उस प्रकार की टेनिस खेली थी कि वहां से आपकी अचीवमेंट दिखने लगी थी कि आप इंटरनेशनल टेनिस में डेफिनेटली कुछ करने जाएंगी, क्योंकि आपके साथी प्लेयर जितने थे वो सब वहीं पर रह गए थे और आपने इतना बड़ा जंप किया था 2 साल के अंदर, 3 साल के अंदर में, कि वो आपके कहीं क्लोज भी नहीं थे। उस टाइप की ट्रेनिंग आपके थोड़ी सी बात करें कि आपने वो जो जंप था 15, 16, 17 वाला, जो आप वहां से निकली हैं और फिर इंटरनेशनल में बहुत हद तक ऊपर चली गई हैं, वो थोड़ा सा आप थोड़ा बयान करें तो शायद लोगों को बड़ा फायदा मिलेगा उससे।
मैं पहले तो मैं I was coached only in India since I was 6 years old. I only went out for coaching जब मैं I think 16 साल की थी, 15 या 16 साल की, and I went to Bob Brett and I went there to San Remo, Italy में, and that was very helpful for me क्योंकि मुझे उस टाइम पे पता चला कि ये जो हार्ड वर्क हम कर रहे थे, कितनी चीजें गलत कर रहे थे और कितनी चीजें सही कर रहे थे, उस टाइम पे हमें पता चला। और वो 8 या 10 साल के बाद, एंड आई थिंक दैट्स वन ऑफ द प्रॉब्लम्स जो आज की हमारे पास हैं कि यू नो कभी कभार हम थोड़ा लेट हो जाता है। अगर मैं और 2 साल बाद जाती थी तो शायद थोड़ा लेट हो जाता था मेरे लिए, लेकिन मैं सही टाइम पे उस टाइम पे गई, सो आई वाज एबल टू इम्प्रूव। मैं जब बॉब ब्रेट के पास गई तो आई चेंज माय बैकहैंड। मेरा बैकहैंड का स्विंग अलग हुआ करता था और उस टाइम पे आई चेंज माय बैकहैंड। तो जब मैंने बैकहैंड चेंज किया, इट मेड अ ह्यूज डिफरेंस टू माय लाइफ, इट मेड अ ह्यूज डिफरेंस टू माय टेनिस। एंड देन उसी 2 साल के अंदर मेरा वो ब्रेक थ्रू ईयर हुआ 2005 में, तो आई मस्ट हैव गॉन अराउंड 2003 और समथिंग। तो उसी 2 साल के बाद आई थिंक बिलीफ इज द मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग। आपको बिलीव करना चाहिए दैट यू बिलोंग देयर। अगर आप बिलीव नहीं करेंगे, आप ये आपके खुद में और आपके खुद के टैलेंट में और हार्ड वर्क में आपको फेथ होना चाहिए। आई थिंक दीज आर द 2 वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स एज कोचेस एज वेल, जो आप लोग अपने प्लेयर्स में दे सकते हैं। उनको बिलीव करवाएं और उनको फेथ दिलवाएं दैट दे बिलोंग विद द बेस्ट। And I think that's what my parents did with me at that point, and that's how when I went to play an Australian Open, when I won the first round, to be very honest, मैं surprised नहीं थी, मैं खुश बहुत थी, लेकिन मैं surprised नहीं थी। I believed that I was supposed to be there. I believed that I was going to be able to win that first round. तो जब मैं 2 round जीती हूँ and I played against Serena, it gave me so much confidence. And like I said earlier, I think that was one of the reasons मुझे वहाँ पे थोड़ा सा वो सेल्फ बिलीफ भी आया जब मैं हैदराबाद में WTA खेलने आई कि मैं अगर सरीना के साथ compete कर सकती हूँ तो मैं सबके साथ compete कर सकती हूँ, फॉर एग्जाम्पल।
बिल्कुल सही कहा आपने। और आपकी जो टेनिस है, जो आपकी मशहूरी है, खासकर टेनिस के अंदर, आपके तो खैर ओवरऑल टेनिस बहुत ही बढ़िया है, लेकिन सबसे बड़ा वेपन आपका जो फोरहैंड है
जी,
इसके लिए आप मशहूर हैं कि अगर बॉल थोड़ी भी लूज मिली फोरहैंड पे तो सानिया का पॉइंट है। सो वो थोड़ा सा बताएं कि आपने जो कुछ इसके लिए क्या स्पेसिफिक ट्रेनिंग करी है, या आपने कुछ ऐसे ड्रिल करे हैं कि जो आज बच्चे भी जो आपके जो दिख रहे होंगे, जो इसके कोच देख रहे होंगे, इसके बारे में जानेंगे। आपका वेपन स्ट्रोक जो फोरहैंड है, जो आज भी मशहूर है, उसके बारे
मैं
में
ऑनेस्टली बताऊं, जो फोरहैंड मेरा है ना, जब मेरे पास थोड़े कुछ फोटोज है जब मैं 8 साल की थी या 7 साल की थी, क्योंकि मैंने 6 में टेनिस स्टार्ट किया था। when I was 12 years old. मेरा और आज का forehand के जो photos हैं वो exactly same है. There has been no difference. मेरे so I do believe जो मेरा forehand है is a lot to do with being natural. मेरी natural ability है. Like अगर आप मुझे कहें कि आपको किसने ऐसे सिखाया है, मैं आपको नहीं बता सकती, क्योंकि मैं actually पहले बहुत ही यहाँ पे जितने tennis coaches है वो obviously जानेंगे मैं जो कहने जा रही हूँ. मेरी बहुत ही वेस्टर्न ग्रिप हुआ करती थी. मैं ग्रिप ऐसे पकड़ती थी बिल्कुल. आई यूज्ड टू फेस माय बैक ऑफ माय रिस्ट टू द रैकेट, टू द नेट. और फिर उसके बाद धीरे धीरे व्हेन आई वाज लाइक 11 और 12 दे स्टार्टेड चेंजिंग माय ग्रिप अ लिटिल बिट. तो थोड़ी सी आई केम बैक हियर, बट आफ्टर अ सर्टेन पॉइंट आई स्टॉप टू चेंज इट. मैंने कहा अब मैं इसके बाद नहीं करूंगी चेंज. दे ट्राइड, मतलब हर कोच ने ट्राई कर लिया. दे सेड नहीं तुम्हें रिस्ट प्रॉब्लम होंगे. मैंने कहा मुझे फोरहैंड ही खेलने नहीं आएगा अगर मैं ऐसे नहीं पकड़ूंगी रैकेट. दैट was natural. That was just a natural thing जो मेरे mind में आया. I played with it. मेरी थोड़ी सी natural ability भी है, and I guess वो आप उसको वो कह लें strength कह लें. I'm very hypermobile. मेरे joints बहुत hypermobile हैं, so I'm able to change direction with my forehand with the wrist in the last moment. So I think that really helps with my forehand जो मेरी strength है, because I feel कि लोग forehand को read नहीं कर पाते. Because I'm able to usually आप forehand का direction shoulder से change कर सकते हैं. Sometimes आप अपने left shoulder को point करके लोग कह सकते हैं कि आप किधर मारने वाले हैं. But I can be in any position and I can change the direction of the ball because मेरी wrist जो है वो बहुत ही hypermobile है. Like I'm very lax jointed. So that is something that is natural. अभी उस पे तो मैंने कुछ work नहीं किया, वो अब खुदा ने दिया है मुझे, तो that is something that just comes to me. So but I did work on my timing. I worked. I tried to take the ball as early as possible, and I think that आप जब early ball contact करते हैं तभी आपको सबसे ज़्यादा power आता है. अगर आप थोड़ा सा भी पीछे अगर लें तो आपका 10 mile power कम हो जाएगा. So that is some things that you know with my forehand that I consciously thought of, but a lot of it is natural, to be very honest.
ठीक है. मैं समझता हूँ कि आपने एक आखिरी क्वेश्चन मेरा जरूर रहेगा, क्योंकि ये क्वेश्चन बहुत जरूरी है सबको जानने के लिए कि आपको जब इंजरी हुई थी रिस्ट की, वो थोड़ी सी हुई जरूरी थी, लेकिन आपने उसको, क्योंकि इंजरी होना बहुत जरूरी है टेनिस के अंदर या स्पोर्ट्स के अंदर, होती ही रहती है, तो उस समय आपने बड़ा प्रिकॉशन लिए थे. मुझे याद है, मेरे को मैं सुनता रहता था आपके बारे में कि आपने इतने दिन वेट करिए, इतने दिन आगे बढ़ने के लिए कोशिश करिए, या फिर रुक करके आपने रिहैब के लिए भी गई थी. तो वो क्या चीज समय था, वो आपने कैसे उसको ठीक करा था?
एक्चुअली मेरी रिस्ट की सर्जरी हुई थी, और मेरी जो और एक्चुअली वन ऑफ द रीजंस क्योंकि मेरी ये सर्जरी हुई क्योंकि मैं इतनी हाइपर मोबाइल हूँ मेरे जॉइंट्स में. तो जो चीज मुझे स्ट्रेंथ भी है मेरी, वो वीकनेस भी है. इसी वजह से मेरी रिस्ट इंजर भी हुई थी. तो मेरी जब रिस्ट की सर्जरी हुई थी मुझे लगा था कि शायद मेरा टेनिस करियर खत्म हो गया था. ये मैं 2009-2010 की बात कर रही हूँ. एंड एट दैट पॉइंट बहुत टाइम लगा था मेरी रिस्ट को वापस आने के लिए. Because 2008 से ये start हो गया था, and in Olympics I had a really bad wrist when I was playing, and it was awful. मतलब I could not play. It was the worst thing that could have happened. मैं अपने खुद के बाल नहीं बना सकती थी with the wrist. इतने मेरी बुरी wrist हो गई थी. But in 2010 I took 6 months off. I did rehab. I called a physio from Australia. 6 महीने के बाद I thought कि मेरा tennis career शायद खत्म हो गया था, and then I started playing again. And at the end of the year, I happened to win a few medals at the Commonwealth Games जो दिल्ली में हुआ था उस साल 2010 में. तो उस टाइम पे mentally भी बहुत मुश्किल था और physically भी बहुत मुश्किल था, because I was being forced to stop playing and stop doing what I love doing. And who knew in 2020 I would still be playing tennis? मैं तो I would have not even dreamt of it in 2010.
So we definitely want to see you again at 20 years to play tennis area. कम से कम आप हमारे लिए तो बहुत हो जाएगी. मैं इसके साथ ही अपने दोस्त सुरेश को कहता हूँ कि आगे का जो कार्यक्रम है चालू रखें. All the best, Sania, from all the coaches fraternity from India. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Nassing. Thank you, Sania, for being here with us and speaking so much, openly, and you're not holding back any information. And
Thank you.
Amazing listening to you. And also, all the best to you for winning the Hart Award.
Okay, let's hope so.
We are all there behind you.
Thanks, guys. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Sania. Bye.
Bye.
So, Himanshu, can you bring Hemant Bendre from the panelists, from the attendees to the panelists, please? Hi everyone. We have Hemant Bendre. He's going to be presenting on the mental training on court for coaches. And Hemant Bendre was the director for coaching till last year in India. And he's an elite coach certified by the International Tennis Federation. And he's the coach for Ankita Raina and several other players like Arjun Khade and so many other top players. And he's done tremendous work in terms of producing players in the last several years. And he's continuing to do that. And we wish him all the best to bringing more and more players from India. And do we have Hemant here? Hi, Hemant. You have to unmute yourself, Hemant.
Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Nice to see you. Looking sharp.
As always.
It's all you, Hemant.
Yeah. So first of all, great work, Suresh, and both you have been. I've been watching all your presentation. The way you're coordinating the thing, it's fantastic, and I think coaches are helped. Who definitely would be helped by this. Can you hear me, Suresh? Oh, no, you unmute yourself. Okay.
No. Yeah, I can see you. I can hear you very well.
Okay. Basically, yesterday's I think most of us saw Miguel speaking, and it was fantastic that coaches in India have more numbers have registered for the ITF Academy, and they are basically it shows that coaches want to learn, and coaches are utilizing this time, which is tough time for everybody, to learn and to improve their skills and to be better coaches once everything starts. And I hope it will start soon. So it's great. First of all, I would like to thank Sports Authority of India and AITA to giving me this opportunity to interact. I would like to thank AITA Coaches Education Department, especially Bharat Oza, who is the chairman, Suresh, who is the director of Coaches Education, and Nursing, who is the administrator. And they are doing a great job. And we have seen many tutors, AITA tutors, who have been involved in this and are trying to help coaches in different ways so that coaches learn. I think too many topics have been covered